ChatGPT is not going to replace you, but the person that actually knows how to use it properly might. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can go from a ChatGPT beginner to a certified pro. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So the way I see it is that there are three basic levels of ChatGPT users. You have level 1, which is the person that just asks basic questions and essentially just treats ChatGPT like a version of Google. Level 2, the person that actually knows how to prompt the platform properly. And I'll go more in depth on how to use one of my favorite prompt tactics later on in this video. And level 3 is the person that knows how to create custom GPTs. Once you get to this point, it really just transforms the way that you interact with this platform because it's just so much nicer. The information is so much more streamlined, condensed, and overall it just helps facilitate your day-to-day workflows depending on your use case. So I'll teach you how to do that as well. But first, I want you to understand the different ChatGPT models and basically how to maneuver the interface. So let's start with the models. If you're on the free plan, you'll have access to 3.5, which it's going to get the job done. No big deal there. 4.0 right now is their, I guess, flagship model or their most popular model. And 0.3, which is more like a strategic thinker. If you want to do more in-depth research, think, for example, if you were to hire a consultant and you want like really in-depth, in-detail information, that's when you would actually use 0.3. Bear in mind that this model does take longer to actually get responses back to you, but oftentimes they are a little bit better thought out, planned out, formatted, etc. You also have access to these different tools depending on if you're using it on desktop or on the web. One thing that I want to show you right now is specifically when I use ChatGPT on desktop. One of my favorite use cases for this is actually integrating my Notion. So as you can see here, I just clicked on application. And if I add Notion, it can actually show me the script that I have for this specific video or the outline. And I can ask it questions specifically tailored to whatever is on that specific Notion page. So if you think about it, it kind of refines the conversational topic, and it's kind of like having an assistant or a coworker next to you, and you're referencing the same document and building and asking questions based off of that. That's a really cool use case as well. Obviously, you can upload different files, images, stuff of that nature, search the web, do deep research as well, or use their agent mode depending on your actual plan. But for the time being, that's not necessarily where we want to start. So going back to this, one thing that I want you to understand is prompting. Prompting is super important, and in my opinion, my favorite framework specifically is the R.I.D.E framework. So what does this stand for? Number 1, you have role. Here, it's super important that you actually set the context when it comes to properly instructing the AI to get the proper output. So an example of this could be act as a D2C copywriter, act as a SaaS product manager, act as a Gen Z brand voice expert. You see, being able to give it that specific role is going to massively improve your output when it comes to asking these different questions or instructing the AI on what you want it to do. The second part of this is input. So this is where you either feed data, provide a website, maybe give an example of like previous work or copy, give it instructions about the audience that you're trying to appeal to, all that stuff. D stands for direction. This is where you specifically tell it what to do. So a use case for this could be write 3 email subject lines, summarize in bullet points, translate it into TikTok strips, you name it. Lastly, we have expectation. This is the format, the tone, the length, right? So what do you actually want from what you're prompting it? An example of this could be, I want a motivational tone, I want it to be 300 words, and I want it in a markdown format. So an example that I left right here is essentially a prompt using this specific framework, which I want to go over it with you. So here we're saying act as a UGC creator who makes wellness-focused TikToks. That is the role, right? The product is Focus Fuel, a nootropic hydration powder that boosts focus without caffeine crashes. That is the input. I want a 30-second script that feels like a first-person story, right? That is the direction. Start with a bold hook, highlight 2 benefits, and end with the CTA to try it. That is just an amplification of the direction. And then finally, we have the actual expectation. Keep the tone casual and relatable. This is a prompt that perfectly follows that specific R.I.D.E framework. Now, bonus tip. if you want to add an example of what the actual output is, or maybe like a competitor's example, just anything tangible for the AI to be able to learn from and process, it's going to make your output so much better. So now that we understand the R.I.D.E framework, I want to talk about the differences between threads, projects, and custom GPTs. So let's go ahead and get started with threads. Threads is just basically when you're having a normal conversation with ChatGPT, kind of if you were to be using it kind of like Google. So one thing that you have to consider is that threads, they are temporary. They do have limits. They have little to no context carryover. Like, for example, if you're talking about a specific subject in one thread and then you start a new thread and you ask it a question about the original thread, it's probably not going to pick up on that. This, again, really good for just like one-off use cases. You have a quick question, you need a quick answer. Again, kind of like that Google use case, that Google replacement, that's what threads are for. Next, we have projects. I want you to think of projects almost like a Google Doc, or at least like a shared organization where you can like compile different aspects of what that project is and be able to re-reference it. So one of the advantages of projects specifically is that it has persistent memory for the project, right? So it has ongoing memory for that specific use case. File uploads also stay in context. You have the ability to specifically, when you're creating your project, to do two things. Number one is upload different files related to the project. And number two is actually prompt the project on what it is that you want its role to be. Kind of like going back to that R.I.D.E framework, but it's established consistently within that project on an ongoing basis. So super nifty, super useful. I truly recommend that you make the pivot, especially if you're making ongoing conversational topics with ChatGPT, to make that pivot from using threads to actually creating your own projects, depending on the use case and if it's something that you consistently talk about with ChatGPT, right? So great use cases here: client campaigns, writing long form content as well, or maybe like an ongoing strategy session. Then finally, we have custom GPTs. This is essentially like building a little app within ChatGPT that anyone can use. I personally use this internally, just like for myself, for my work, my day-to-day, just ideation, all of it, right? But you can also share it with other individuals as well. Now, the cool thing about this is that you can pre-program kind of like a personality behind it, its set role, kind of like establishing a specific R.I.D.E framework consistently, so that every time that you re-reference this custom GPT, it kind of already has an idea of what it's meant to do. Like I mentioned previously, it's also shareable with others, and you can also include different files, add branding elements to it, so it's quite cool, it's nifty. A great use case for this could be a productized service, branded client tools as well, or just a overall teaching or coaching tool. My favorite use case is just ongoing sort of like conversational topics that I tap into. It's kind of like a project, but on steroids for me. So now that we understand that, I want to skip the threads and the projects and help you create your own custom GPT. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a custom GPT that actually just establishes the R.I.D.E framework consistently, so that every time I talk to it and every time I want to sort of like introduce a new concept or project or whatever that is, it's going to guide me through the process of actually developing my ideas within this R.I.D.E framework, just so I can be a little bit lazier and I don't really have to think out my prompts so specifically every single time I talk to ChatGPT. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually copy and paste this, and I'm going to show you how to create your own custom GPT. Now, in order to do so, what I want you to do is go to ChatGPT on desktop, and on the left-hand side over here, you're going to see a button that says GPTs. Now, keep in mind, when it comes to creating a custom GPT, this is a paid part of their paid plan, so just something to be considerate of. You're going to go here to the right-hand corner and click on Create, and we're going to call this the R.I.D.E GPT. In terms of description, since it's just for me, I'm not going to put anything there, but when it comes to instructions, we're just going to go ahead and copy and paste that original system prompt that we had. You can also include different conversation starters. I'm not going to be doing that for now. Also, basically suggest a model You don't necessarily have to go too in depth on that for the time being, specifically for this use case. But one thing that I really want to highlight, even though we're not applying it for this specific use case, is knowledge. You can actually upload specific files related to whatever it is that you're creating this GPT about, so that this GPT consistently can re-reference those files and essentially create and mold answers based off of it. A good way to think about this is if you use Notion, for example. Notion can be kind of like your life operating system or your business operating system, right? So if you were to input basically all your service outlines or what your business does, maybe different proposals, pitch decks, all of that stuff, you can feed that into the GPT so that it's actually trained off of that. And whenever you ask questions specific to whether it's your business or just your overall life or whatever it is that you're building your GPT off of, foundationally, it already has that information to actually move the needle forward, right? So super cool use case. All we have to do now is hit create. I'm gonna do only me for now, and I'm gonna save it. So yeah, there you have your own custom GPT, and essentially you can ask it anything. So let's see how it actually responds. Let's say I want to write a newsletter. Let's see how it responds to us. Great, let's build a prompt using the R.I.D.E framework to help you generate a newsletter with AI. Notice how I was able to actually be a lot lazier, and now it's walking me through the exact roles it wants to produce. So R for role, who or what should the AI act to help you write your newsletter? And I can basically either insert something else, or I can just copy and paste one of these. So I'm just gonna copy and paste that, bam. All right, so the input. What context should I know before writing the newsletter? Consider including the topic of the theme of the newsletter, key points or updates, yada, yada. So let's just say that I want to write an AI update newsletter. I want to write a AI update newsletter so that my subscribers know what's happening in the world of AI on a weekly basis. And it's just going to start asking you more and more questions so that it can actually create this. I'm going to go ahead and go through this and then show you the end prompt when it comes to building out that R.I.D.E framework. All right, awesome. So as you can see here, it actually created the entire R.I.D.E framework for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy all of this and put it into Miro to see what the output is. All right, so this is what it came up with. Act as a professional newsletter editor. Each week, summarize the most important AI news so that my subscribers can stay informed. The topic is weekly updates on artificial intelligence, and the purpose is to keep readers up to date with the latest happenings in the AI world. The audience includes tech-savvy subscribers who are interested in AI developments. Your task is to summarize the most important AI news of the week, prioritize relevance and clarity. Write the output in a few well-structured paragraphs with an informative, witty tone that still conveys expertise. How cool is that? Literally, I was able to be incredibly lazy, but because I built this specific GPT, it's still going to allow me to build out and flesh out my ideas properly so that I can effectively communicate with AI. Now, let's talk about the 3 things that you can do today to just become a little bit better when it comes to using AI. So, number 1, let's start by, instead of asking AI questions, give it instructions. Just be very blunt, very direct, and have specific outcomes that you want it to achieve. Number 2, I really insist that you use this R.I.D.E framework because the output, the quality of your questions are going to be so much better, which makes the output of the AI 10 times better as well. And lastly, if you want to start small, you can either create a project or a custom GPT for yourself, depending on your different use cases within your day-to-day life or your business.